Two, one. Hello, everyone. This is the first episode of our new show, Loving Unloved Games, where I'm going to be showing off games that are typically not regarded as highly as some others. And for the first episode, we'll be doing Bubsy and Bubsy 3D, and I have Alter Blues on commentary with us.
Hey there.
Hey, so yeah, I know that you like this game.
Yeah, I think we're ripping the Band-Aid off early, getting Bubsy right out the door for talking about underappreciated games. But yeah, I'm a big fan of the Bubsy series. I like most of the games quite a lot, and I think that this series could do well to be more appreciated.
Okay, yeah. I was definitely a fan of this. I know that we have a little bit of a disagreement on which Bubsy game of 1 and 2 is the better one.
Yeah, I guess Bubsy 2 is like the one game I'm not as big of a fan of, but I guess to fill the gap, you're a big fan of Bubsy 2, so I guess we've got pretty much all the games covered.
Yeah.
I've played through the Jaguar game as well. I quite like it. I've played Bubsy. Which one? Not the newest one that came out. Not Claws on Fire, but Woolly Strike Back. That one. Less of a fan of, but there's a lot of life left in the Bubsy series, I think, for anyone who wants to come along and make another great Bubsy series.
Oh yeah. Definitely. This was definitely a cool game in my childhood. Yeah. I was really a fan of, even though, people, there are one-hit kills, but luckily you can use L and R to, go back and forth. So, that definitely helps with, being able to see ahead of you, and the manual even recommends that you do that.
Yeah, I think it's got a lot of mechanics built in that help to smooth over some of the issues with one-hit kills. I think the big complaint about the Bubsy series is that it is a one-hit kill style game, but I think there is a lot done to make that a little easier. Things like being able to move the camera up, down, left, and right, being able to glide so you don't die to fall damage.
Yeah, that definitely helps out with some of the shortcomings, some of the aspects of this game. Yeah, and also there's also a lot of extra lives scattered throughout the levels that can really make it a lot easier.
Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, it's impossible to talk about Bubsy without saying that it does have some design flaws. I mean, I think most people would hear that sentence and laugh because for a lot of people, the design flaws are really the only thing that stands out. But I think this is a good game that does have some obvious problems with it. Things like, there's too long of a gap sometimes between when you get passwords, and you only get 9 lives per continue. For instance, the desert levels in Bubsy have way too long of a gap in between when you get your first password and when you get your next password.
Yeah.
But I do think that there's a lot to love about Bubsy. I mean, it's designed to be a mascot platformer, so they were designing a character that was more based around having a lot of character and attitude versus just raw game design. But I think that the game does manage to do some interesting things that not a lot of games were doing at the time.
Yeah, and you saw that bonus area I was in there. That is mainly useful to get more yarn balls, which if you get 500, you can get another life, so that's another way you can get...
500's a lot.
Yeah, that is fair. That is definitely a lot to get. It's definitely not like Sonic, which I feel like this was kind of inspired from.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, this was definitely on the back of there were a lot of mascot platformers that came out around this time. People who sort of recognized that, the Sonic games have design flaws as well, but people loved it because it was a character with a lot of attitude doing a fun game that went fast. And you can probably look at, 5 or 6 different mascots that were designed around that time. People trying to capitalize on the Sonic formula.
Yeah. And also, I think from what I recall, Sonic was kind of based around the philosophy of like having to game over some and just getting better at the game. And I feel like this is kind of designed around that too, because as you explore and memorize the levels, you'll get better at, you'll know them better and be able to have more lives going into them.
I mean, I've never speedrun Bubsy 1, so I don't feel comfortable saying that I've ever memorized the levels, but even then, I mean, just casually, I can beat this game in a handful of hours using passwords and just retrying sections until I get more confident with how some things are laid out and play a little more conservatively when things are not going well.
Yeah, the passwords definitely go a long way to making this better. There's also continues you can get that start you from the level that you died at.
Right. Yeah, I mean, the password system, if you want to make the game actually more playable, the passwords could have been spaced out better. I think the way the game is built, it gives you a password every 3 levels, with the exception of the very last level doesn't have a password, even though it's the 15th level. Or
yeah,
16th level.
Yeah, 16. There are 16 levels.
But I think that if you gave a password per stage, that might be too easy, but you could probably... I think that they were really, dead set on doing every continue as 9 lives, because if it were just 3 lives per continue, I think giving you a password for every single stage would have been better.
Yeah.
But with 9 lives, they probably figured that's too easy to clear 1 level in 9 lives.
Yeah. So, I know that Bubsy 2, they're, as opposed to something like Bubsy 2, it has, the way it's structured, it has, 3 sections, but you can't, on the hardest difficulty, you can't, start back from the section that you died at, so it's actually a lot more punishing in the long run, I'd say.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think that they thought that they were making Bubsy 2 better and easier by giving you a health system, but I think my biggest complaint with Bubsy 2 has always been that they give you a health system, but then they think that excuses, just spamming you with enemies, everything being a hazard everywhere always.
That's definitely fair.
And I think that's where the failure of Bubsy 2 comes from. I think it's still a great game, I just don't really care for it personally. It's not really my style. I think Bubsy 1 is, people are right when they call it punishing, but I think it's still a well-designed game. The level design is interesting. It's got a lot of varying paths. I think it took a page really out of Sonic's playbook and designed something that has a lot of the spirit of Sonic, in that, you could beat a level 5 different ways and never take the same path twice. But it didn't just copy it. It's not exactly the same. It does it in its own interesting way.
Yeah. Also, people in chat are talking about they like the animations and things in this game.
Bubsy just I think one of the things that makes there is a small but very very powerful community of Bubsy fans on the internet. I have discovered by being a Bubsy fan, you attract a certain quality of people who are Bubsy fans as well. And I think Bubsy having so much character is what sells him so well. The game itself is pretty good, but I think Bubsy just has a really good character to him. And I think that a lot of different companies tried it a lot of different ways. Sonic just, he has an attitude, but he doesn't really have a personality early on. Bubsy drips with personality, and I think for instance, Gex feels like it tries to do the same things that Bubsy does, having that same sort of personality, but Gex goes too far in the direction of just being annoying.
Yeah. I also linked the manual in chat, and that shows a lot of the kind of toot in the game. Yeah.
Bubsy's just. I think Bubsy's just a great character. I think that they did some really wild things. I think that they got a really good voice actor to do some really iconic lines. I mean, if you talk about Bubsy, even people who don't like Bubsy know at least a few of Bubsy's catchphrases, which is better than most people can say about a lot of the other mascot platformers from that era.
Yeah.
The one catchphrase that everyone seems to know is "what could possibly go wrong," though I think that's at least partially due to the fact that that's the voice clip associated with the first level, and I don't know whether or not many people got past the first level.
Well, yeah, that's probably has a lot to do with this.
Imagine how different Bubsy's fandom would be if they had used a different voice clip for the first stage. Whatever they picked would have been the one, you know?
Oh yeah, that's true, definitely.
Bubsy's also I think does a pretty good job with self-referential humor. Someone in chat was talking about the fact that one of his animations, if you just leave him for a second, is he'll like knock on the TV, like trying to get your attention. It's got a lot of sort of like self-referential, meta, fourth wall breaking humor. You know, like if the voice clip for the 16th level in this game is, "Hey, are you still playing this thing?"
Yeah.
Which I think that sort of meta humor plays really well when done properly, and I think Bubsy does it well.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I just showed like the knocking on the screen. Yeah, that's definitely a nice touch. And also the boss is like, "Hey, it's a yarn ball," which yeah.
These boss fights, I think this is probably another page taken directly out of Sonic's playbook, which is good. It's a positive, but it sort of reuses the same boss over and over and just sort of slightly changes it in different ways. So like Sonic, you often have very similar Eggman bosses throughout a Sonic game, and in this one it's maybe taken a step further by all the bosses are more or less just the woolly UFOs, and they either make the arena more difficult or they make the patterns more erratic, but it's the sort of thing where you kind of get to go along with the progression.
Yeah, and you see here now we're in like a circus, and I think they did a good job like making the areas interesting and distinctive.
Yeah, so right now you have the black Bubsy suit, which makes you not invincible, but it makes certain hazards not affect you. You're kind of like just hidden in the background, I think is kind of what they were going for. There is an invincibility shirt that's different from that one, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And that one, when you run into an enemy, it'll like kill them, for instance. But the black shirt is kind of a neat, different mechanic. It just like makes enemies ignore you for the most part.
Yeah, that's definitely, it's cool that they had like different types of power-ups for doing something like that.
This game has a lot of potential for going fast. I mean, that glide animation that the glide ability that Bubsy has can maintain really any sort of speed that you've built up, and there's a lot of opportunities for going fast in Bubsy, whether or not it's like running down a slope, you can get quite a lot of speed, or you found those boots that kick you quite a long distance.
Yeah, if you glide in like the correct way, you can use that to get through the level really quickly.
So these I really like the roller coaster mechanics they have here, though it's often a complaint for Bubsy because of exactly what just happened to you.
Yeah.
Because even though you could probably salvage jumping out of the roller coaster, if you are in it when it falls off an edge, that's it. It's just over instantly. And I think Bubsy, and we'll talk again about Bubsy 3D later, both kind of have this problem of being so excited about showing you a cool animation of you dying that it doesn't seem to care about the fact that you really could survive if you wanted to.
Yeah.
But I think I still really like those segments. It's just sort of, I guess it's one of those things. It's like you have to learn the language of the game, right? Like people consider that to be a design flaw, but I would argue that it's only a design flaw in the sense that other games don't do things that way. So.
Yeah. Thanks for the raid, Bucky Juicy. But yeah, definitely.
Shouldn't that be fair?
So yeah, we're getting to see more puns. I feel like they really put a lot of work into all the different puns and stuff of this. And so this, like, I can't go to the bottom because there's just like spikes scattered through there.
Yeah, some of these levels just, they want you to take the top path so badly that they cover everything with spikes.
Yeah. I don't know if I'm at the point. Oh, yeah, you see, you have to do some learning of like what is there, because yeah, that can happen.
I think one of the bigger issues with Bubsy is that, and this is sort of a complaint that I think is common with Sonic games. At least I've had it with Sonic games. That I don't think is really either Sonic or Bubsy's fault. It's just sort of the nature of the beast. I think it's that Sonic and Bubsy both encourage you to go really fast, and so even though the game gives you all the tools to play the game quite safely, you still feel encouraged to just, take a leap of faith and glide and just see where you land. Even though that might just end up not working out for you, it just feels like that's going to be more fun to do.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it definitely just feels more fun to do that.
And I think, whereas Sonic doesn't always punish you for things like that, like you're not very often going to just fall into a pit or land on something that kills you in one shot. With Bubsy, you do. And so I think that the complaints are valid, but I think that you also have to appreciate that most of the time those deaths, like the one you just had, is just because you're like, hey, I want to just run and glide. And if you had taken it safer, figured out a different path, you would have been perfectly fine.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely. So, I'm getting to show off this a lot. Maybe in a bit we'll be skipping around to some of the later levels. Yeah, exactly, Fog on. Go faster. Here's spikes in your face.
I think often, I think this is sort of the nature of gaming, is that we so often feel like we understand how games work because a lot of games share a language. The idea of holding a button to run in a game, right? Like that was a unique idea at one point, but now that's just sort of a commonplace idea in a game. And the idea that you might be able to jump higher if you have a faster running speed, like that maybe doesn't correlate to anything realistic in the real world, but that's the language of games. And so a lot of times I think some of the complaints that get levied against perfectly good games are that this game did something that didn't fit the language I'm used to.
Oh, yeah. I forget if this invincibility power-up protects me from spikes. I want to say
I don't think anything protects you from spikes in the game.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Yeah, that's one of the things that's a little bit strange about Bubsy, and I think confusing to some people, is that both of the power-ups that look like they make you invincible in some way, neither of them protect you against general stage hazards. So things like falling too far of a distance, landing on spikes, there just doesn't exist any way to protect you against those. And it's kind of like if you play a Mario game, the star power-up, nothing can kill you except for maybe falling in a pit.
Yeah.
But that's just not the way it is with Bubsy. Bubsy has chosen a different way.
Yeah. So there you got to see one of the other animations that I think is pretty neat. If you fall, like, if you hit a wall at high speed. Oh, and there's also this ice cream that doesn't actually kill you, but it gives you an animation.
I don't think I ever realized that it didn't kill you.
Oh, nah, it doesn't kill you. It just causes the animation to happen.
I've never, to my knowledge, gotten hit by it, and so I just always assumed it would kill me if I touched it.
Yeah, that's definitely a safe assumption, honestly, but yeah, it just causes Bubsy to get frozen for a little bit.
Well, that's kind of cute.
Yeah. So here's kind of like a maze where, yeah, some of the things will have power-ups, though.
Yeah, the teleporter mazes can definitely be a little bit frustrating. I think most of the time in modern games we don't see teleporter mazes as much because I think most people have appreciated that they're just not always that fun.
Yeah. So we're going to be heading to the second boss right now, and this is just like the first boss, except it moves a lot faster.
You made that teleporter maze look easy. Did you practice it ahead of time?
I just randomly took a path and it somehow worked out.
Amazing. I don't think I've ever done that teleporter maze right on the first try. I just randomly wander around for a while until I find out I've hit a dead end and then have to work backwards.
Yeah, that's definitely the experience with that. See, we're getting another password. And yeah. So the game is pretty generous with like passwording and stuff. And here we're entering these levels, which I'd say kind of represents a step up in difficulty.
Yeah, so the main issue, and so this is going to be my one legitimate criticism against Bubsy, or against this game in particular, is that these levels are really two-part levels. They're extremely long. You have to beat a fairly lengthy train level, and then you will get dumped off into a desert level, and all three of the levels in this world are exactly like that. And since the game only gives you a password every 3 levels, that means you're effectively playing like 6 levels between passwords. I think this is the real sticking point for a lot of people, is just getting through the train/desert levels is really challenging.
Yeah, definitely.
There are lives throughout this. There's a few lives in the train sections. There's a few lives in the desert sections. It's not that the tools aren't there for you, but you have to really be playing pretty conservatively to succeed at this section. I know that I've played through this game casually several times in my life, and every single time I feel like the train/desert section, stages 7 through 9 are like 3 hours of my playthrough.
So yeah,
I think if they could have balanced this better, I think it would have. I think it would have done a lot of favors for the game.
Yeah. Also, I think we're going to be hitting another point where, like, there's one thing that is in this level, if I remember correctly. I forget if it's this level or the next level.
Yeah, it's one of these desert levels. I'm almost certain I know what you're talking about. There is a kind of almost a bug in the game where if you don't kill the right enemies and collect a checkpoint, you can actually get I don't want to say soft locked, but it'll instant kill you all the way till you game over.
Yeah, so like if you have a continue, you can still continue from the level, but still, it's a little unfortunate, but yeah. I mean, you gotta appreciate that a lot goes into like making sure that you'll be perfectly safe everywhere in like game design in general.
Yeah, I think it's probably an oversight that really could have been fixed, but it's the only one to my knowledge that exists in the entire game, the only case where that happens, and so I think it's probably excusable as a one-time mistake.
Yeah. And And you also get passwords every 3 levels, so it's not the worst. And yeah, you don't get passwords every level, but there are passwords built into the game every level. But yeah, we're about half an hour into this. I guess maybe I'll get to show off the majority of this game through this hour session of this game.
So, what levels do you prefer in this? I mean, each world has kind of its own really unique theme.
I'm really not sure. I really have more experience with the first few levels. Like, as a kid, the farthest I could get is like the mountain levels, which is the world after this, and I feel like that kind of has the prettiest aesthetic generally.
I don't think I ever got to the mountain levels as a kid. I know that I got to the train levels as a kid, but I don't think I ever beat the train levels. I did not have patience for games like this when I was younger.
Yeah, it definitely takes a lot of patience for this kind of game, just because it's pretty punishing. But yeah, I know I never got to like the jungle levels as a kid. Those
are pretty challenging. Those are pretty challenging levels.
Yeah.
But I think honestly, my opinion is that as someone who didn't have a lot of experience with this game in its entirety when I did my first sort of casual playthrough on stream, I had rented it as a kid, but I didn't have like a ton of experience with it. I think that the train levels are probably the highest difficulty. I think that once you get out of these, even though the later levels are designed to be more challenging, I think that this is really the peak. I think it goes back down after this.
Yeah.
I wonder if that has something to do with like the theory that a lot of people have about some games of this era where they were designed to be very difficult partway in so that you couldn't just beat the game if you rented it. I wonder if there was any consideration for that in this game. I wonder if that's why maybe it's so difficult in spots.
Yeah, that's definitely possible. That was definitely a pretty big thing with games of this era.
I mean, people usually refer to games like Lion King, where pretty early on the game ramps up in difficulty. Was it like the second level is the I just can't wait to be king, and it's so difficult that no kid is really going to beat that renting it just for a few days. You would have to get your parents to buy it for you. I think that checkpoint that you just got was the one. If you don't kill the enemy that's right before the checkpoint, if you don't kill the enemy right before the checkpoint, then he will still be spawned there when you reload, and he'll kill you instantly.
Yeah. That's that's definitely the point that happens at. So if that happened, you didn't have a continue, you'd have to go back one level. So it's a little punishing, but it's not as bad as it could be if there weren't passwords. It's nice that they included those. And so I'm thinking this might be a good time to just go straight on to like the jungle or the mountain levels, because this is kind of a little.
Yeah, you were only about halfway through that world as it is.
Yeah,
and that was with playing it really well. So.
I forget how the password entry works in this. Okay.
So you like hit select, you put in the password, and then you hit select again, and it should tell you the level that you're loading.
Yeah. I have like the passwords in like a document, so I'm just putting that real quick. Yes, and well, heck, I accidentally pressed select again. Yes. I think I need to press start afterwards instead. There we go.
I didn't like that stuff.
There you go.
Yeah. And so yeah, I'd say I'm a fan of like of like the music here and stuff, and I'd say this is where the game. Personally, I find this level harder than the train level, just because, like, the water there, I think that always tripped me up as a kid.
Yeah, I think the thing that makes some of these later levels challenging is the fact that if you fall off of the upper paths, you'd mostly either just fall to your death or you fall somewhere so unsafe that you're not going to be able to continue. And it's really kind of, I don't know if you could consider it better or worse, but the world after this one takes it even a step further by making it so that when you fall to the bottom path, you always have to start the level over again. It's not, you don't die, you just have to walk all the way back to the beginning of the level to rejoin the top path, so.
Yeah, and you see this, like, you can ride this log, but this thing is actually bouncing me up, and there that happened.
Yeah, I didn't like that stuff.
Yeah, riding the raft is a real challenge. I've never tried to just use the raft to get through the whole level.
What's to say you can get this? Yeah, you can, but I didn't. I wasn't. The raft got away by the time I was able to get that.
Stuff.
Fortunately, since you killed that enemy, didn't it stay dead?
Yeah, that's one thing that I think is nicer about this game that relative to a lot of platformers. Like, enemies stay dead after you destroy them, even if you take a death. So that's a little generous at least. You can also look like down and up to make sure areas are safe, so that's a nice feature of the game.
Yeah, I think it's got all the tools in place that you would expect from a game like this one to allow you to look around and make sure that things are safe. You can press L and R to scroll the camera left and right, and you can hold up and down when you're standing still to see above and below you.
Yeah.
In fact, if you're trying to play this game somewhat fast, like if that's something that you want to do, you can just hold R all the time so you can see really clearly in front of you a whole screen's worth, which honestly a lot of platformers would benefit from something like that, being able to get like a really good view of everything that's going on in front of you all the time.
Definitely, yeah.
I mean, it's a necessity for a game like this, but I mean, even Super Mario World had that. You know, you could scroll the screen and keep it scrolled so that you can see in front of you really clearly.
Yeah.
So if Nintendo did it, it must be right.
Yeah. Oh, there was just an enemy right on top of there, so I guess that's one thing that can be a little bit annoying, that you can't, it's a little bit hard to see above you if you're traveling really fast, because you can press up and down to get a view, but you can't do that while you're in the air, unfortunately.
Right. Yeah, unfortunately, once you're already kind of moving, you're mostly stuck into whatever you can see.
Yeah.
I always felt like these levels, they are challenging, but I don't think that they're all very well designed. There's a few of them that have some really cool upper paths. Like if you just stick to the water, I think the levels can be a little bit more boring and maybe even more hazardous. But most of these levels don't really have a well-defined upper path, and it's just like you're sticking close to the water anyway.
Yeah, I didn't like that.
Yeah, that's definitely true.
I think the first one, the one you're on right now, Be Very Careful, I think it has like a really good upper path. Like there's interesting content way up in the sky, but I mean that comes with its own challenges, right? If you miss a platform, you're probably going to plummet all the way down into the water, versus down here where you kind of know what you're dealing with.
Yeah. want to say that this is pretty close to... Oh, there's also that pushes that to the other way. Oh.
Yep, the turtle pushes it, and the alligator, left unchecked, will actually eat segments of the raft, so the raft can get smaller.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to see if I can get to the upper pass, but I think it's kind of hard to get to the upper pass if you've already fallen, unfortunately. Okay, I can probably explore it a little bit at least. Yeah, so they'll have, like, this section in particular has, like, a platform here. Where, like, it just... Oh! That's the problem with one stream. Like, sometimes enemies can just ambush you from the other place you're not looking at. Eh.
Yeah, there's no easy path in these levels, especially as you get this far through the game. It kind of just expects that you're used to it at this point and you can handle whatever.
Oh, yeah, and unfortunately I was using a password, so that's game over. I think we're 38 minutes in according to what time it is, so I'm gonna show off, like, the jungle level, then probably the final level.
Okay.
Like, just show, like... I guess I'll show off the next to last level, level 15. So... Yeah, chapter. This is the level like before the last level. Hopefully I'll get to show off the boss. And yeah, these webs, you can actually jump on them to get higher up. I don't know if that's the most clearly communicated, but, or I guess, I don't know. I don't know if that's something you'd really consider doing at first.
I think with things like that, where it maybe doesn't communicate it clearly, I think that can be okay sometimes, because it's not your only way of progressing through the level. So it's got like a lot of kind of neat things that you might discover, but you might never discover it, and that's okay.
Well, yeah, that's true. I don't think that's like required to progress in the level, but so it's probably fine that you won't necessarily figure it out. So I'm trying to fall on that, and you see what happens if you fall in this level in particular. I think in the first level of the Jungle series, you just fall down, and you just have to repeat a lot of the level. But in this level, you die if you fall too far.
Yeah, the first level does have ground, and unfortunately, or rather, the way the level's designed is it's designed so that if you fall to the bottom, there's really no way to get back into the level without going all the way left. So you basically have to restart the level anytime you fall. Which, I mean, I think if you've gotten to this point in the game, you've kind of gotten used to Bubsy's, like the silly elements of this game. So you're probably kind of not too shocked by it.
Yeah.
I think at a certain point, it's kind of hard to be too surprised by anything that this game pulls. It's...
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely gets to the point where there's like a lot of enemies around everywhere.
Yeah, it gets a lot worse later. And they start using things like those guys who throw the eggs. The ones throwing the eggs are really troublesome because a lot of times they're placed just off screen in a way that you can't see the eggs that they're throwing.
Yeah. Oh, okay, that somehow worked out, okay.
It was a pretty lucky glide you had back there.
Yeah. Yeah, these platforms can be a little bit tricky to climb up.
I think it's funny that you're kind of demonstrating exactly what I was pointing out before, is that, you know, certainly there is a very safe way that you can go about playing this game. You can sort of, every single platform you get to, look around, inspect a little bit, see what your options are. But, like, why would you? It's so much more fun to try to go fast and just glide and see where you land. Who knows?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like if I glide here, I'm gonna miss the checkpoint. Before, yeah, I bet, or maybe I can still get it. I think there should be a. Is there not a checkpoint for the boss? I think this is the boss.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly where the checkpoint is.
Yeah, okay, it's right up there. Good. But yeah, if I would have just continued falling, I would have just missed a checkpoint and spawned right here. So yeah. That's someone that was better than I expected, honestly. That boss, if you let them be on screen for too long, they can start shooting a lot of projectiles, but thankfully that went pretty well.
Yeah, it was really smooth.
Thanks. So we're gonna be getting to hear that famous Bubsy.
Well, are you still playing this thing?
You gotta love it. So...
This is a pretty long level too. I mean, this is challenging, and I could be mistaken, though I don't think I am. It didn't give you a password going into this level, did it?
No, it didn't. So if you game over, you have to start from level 13. So yeah.
Yeah, so it's a 4-level sequence, including the last level, which includes a pretty punishing boss. So I think this is really kind of another, you know, design flaw of the game that people do point out, but
yeah,
I don't know. I forgive you, Bubsy.
yeah. I want to. Hopefully, I can get to the final boss and like show it off, because it's. I'd say it's pretty hard. I know it's the kind of boss that it's possible that you can just beat it the first time if everything goes right, but sometimes it's just not kind.
Yeah, it's pretty punishing.
Yeah. Oh, heck. But yeah, I'd say that the things that make this game nice, like being able to get extra lives and things, I'd say that they also make optimizing this game have a really high skill ceiling, because you have to like avoid getting those and just focus on going fast.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it gives you a lot of options for going fast. So I mean, if that's something that you're interested in, this game is challenging to go fast in, but it's just one of those games that if everything goes right, this game just looks amazing when done right.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah, there's like a lot of enemies everywhere in this level.
Well, are you still playing this thing?
It's like they really didn't want you to beat this game.
Yeah. Oh, and yeah, so even though, like, those can actually shoot through walls, so even though we can't go there, that woolly can still kill us. So, yeah. And yeah, it's kind of like, it can be a little hard to figure out where to go here because there's just a lot of options.
Yep.
And it's like kind of a switch maze, too.
Yeah, they didn't want to make this too easy, I guess.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, those kind of... It's a little bit hard to react to those, and since, like, completed that, we'll need to like go back here and redo that. But it's better than. I guess it does kind of at least make it easy so for you to not take a death and save yourself when you realize that those are there. Like if they would have made
having those right off screen's a little unfair, but yeah.
Yeah.
You're reacting quickly enough.
Well, are you still playing
And
this
and even when you do know they're there, it's a pretty precise movement to get through them safely.
Dang, they're gonna make you redo all those switches.
Yeah, that's a bit unfortunate.
Well, are you
that
still
you
playing
do
this
that.
thing?
Oh, did I need to? I think I forgot to hit this one, or maybe I didn't. Oh, I clipped. Heck, I wasn't able to do anything with it, but still.
Yeah, that sort of clip gets used in the speedrun. In the carnival stage, you can actually clip into the teleporter maze a little bit to skip some of it.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, this was the section that... Alright! This is intense, wow.
Dang, they make you work for it.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Yeah, they really don't hold anything back in this level. And here, there's gonna be like a road. And, okay, hopefully there will be like a checkpoint. I think probably after this set of lives we'll be moving on to Bubsy 3D, so we'll get to show that off. I guess, I know you played Fractured Furry Tale, so do you want to talk about that any?
Yeah, I mean, Fractured Furry Tales definitely follows suit with this style a lot more than like Bubsy 2. You don't have a health meter, it's a one-hit kill. You get passwords I think you get a password for every single level, and the levels are a lot more circuitous, so it's a little more of a maze to figure out where you're trying to go. I think if there is a complaint to be had for Fractured Furry Tales, you know, aside from the usual, I would say that it's maybe just that the levels are designed a little more maze-like, but they're still good, and they all sort of follow fairy tale themes, which I think is always kind of a cool theme for video games. So it's got like Alice in Wonderland, it's got Alibaba and the 40 Thieves, it's got 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. It's got all sorts of like stories that the levels are based on, which I think gives a more interesting theming process to the game than just like, hey, look, we're in the woods now versus the desert, versus like having the themes be built on popular stories and characters makes it a pretty interesting game.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm glad that they like give you checkpoint with each level. That kind of helps out with the fact that the levels are maze-like and that you die in one hit.
Yeah, I don't know how easy it would have been for me to complete that game if it didn't have at least better checkpointing. I can't recall offhand whether or not it had a password per level, but it did have better checkpointing. It felt easier to get through each world.
Yeah, definitely. Like from what I remember, it did from when I watched you play it. So I think that we're actually going to be heading to the final boss now. So
yeah, this is the boss.
I might get to show off like why it can be a little tricky, or I can just hopefully get it first try. Yeah, if you're not attacking him at every point the boss will just drop like a million things, which makes it like really hard if you don't do it absolutely perfectly. So yeah, hopefully we'll get it, but yeah, we have like 3 more lives.
I believe in you.
Let's. That's how it's supposed to go. Yes. I'm a little surprised I was actually able to beat that. That's definitely a tricky boss. Yeah.
Well done.
Thanks. Yeah. And look, that shows like kind of Bubsy's attitude. He's all like, "But I did it. I guess you helped." That kind of shows Bubsy's character. So, and now we're getting to like see this. And, like, yeah, we're getting to see, like, the ending.
And then we find out it was just all on a soundstage. The whole thing was just a movie set.
Yeah. And, so, yeah, you also get to see those credits if you like at the beginning of the game, too. So, I'm glad I was like able to show a lot of this off and stuff. Ooh, that's not the button combination, but yeah. So, I think we'll probably start getting. We'll probably be switching to Bubsy 3D. We'll probably just take like a 1 or 2 minute break real quick. So, we'll see y'all in a little bit. So, yeah. So hello everyone. Now we're back, and I'm gonna show off Bubsy 3D now.
Now time for the real show.
Yeah.
I'm actually a big fan of Bubsy 3D. I think it does a lot of interesting things. It probably gets the most hate of all of them, but I think it does some of the more interesting things.
Yeah, definitely. It has like a lot of pretty cool things. I want to show off like the intro cutscene just because I think it's pretty neat, like the characterization of everything.
Yeah, they really went all in on the lore here.
Yeah.
As you may already know, a great catastrophe has befallen us that threatens to destroy our very woolly way of life. Bubsy Bobcat! Bubsy Bobcat is on Rayon! We'll all be bopped! Settle down, settle down. Calm down. No one's going to be bopped on my watch. How can this have happened? Well, that's a bit of a long story, but here's the abridged version, approved for public dispersal by their Royal Highnesses, Queens Polly and Esther. Our magnificent queens devised an ingenious plan to steal all the war balls of Earth, but they were foiled by the fiendish Bubsy Bobcat. Now our queens have developed an even more ingenious, if such a thing is possible, invasion plan. Unfortunately, they needed to get their fireball out of the picture. So a crack troop of woolly commandos were sent to Earth. There, they fought bravely and captured the hideous beast, due in no small part to my brilliant tactical leadership. On the return trip,
Oh, I accidentally pressed R and did that. Whoops. But yeah, that kind of gives a showcase of the general attitude of this game. It our quest is to go. I think we got sent back in time, and we need to collect all the rockets and stuff.
Yeah, I think Bubsy crash landed on their planet, so we're actually, rather than the Woolies coming to ostensibly Earth, we have gone to the Woolies planet by crash landing there, and the only way for us to get home is to rebuild our rocket ship, and so we're collecting all the rocket parts, is what they actually are.
Oh, yeah.
But you don't actually have to collect them all. If you just collect the last one, it counts.
Yeah. Well, you get a different ending depending on how many you collect, but it's still the story still ends with bad stuff happening no matter what, interestingly. So, yeah. So it kind of makes you wonder why you'd want to do it. Either way, the Woolies win.
Yeah, so you crash landed on their planet, and their leaders, Polly and Esther, are the ones that you're trying to defeat, because they have stolen the main rocket part that you need to be able to get home.
Yeah.
So there's these atoms all over the place that you can collect. You could also, alternatively, you can grab them and shoot them as weapons if you need to.
Yeah.
You can do that by holding square when you walk into them, and it becomes a weapon that you can shoot, which is kind of a neat dichotomy. Collecting pickups versus them just being weapons all around.
Yeah, but there is one thing you need to watch for. If you hold it too long,
it can blow up on you. Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you shoot it and it doesn't hit anything, if you shoot at a fairly long distance and it doesn't run into anything, it'll actually come back for you.
Yeah. So this first level here, it gives you a lot of opportunities for extra lives, so that's nice.
Some of the main criticisms that this game gets, and again, I understand them, they're valid. One of the main ones that this game gets is that it feels very unfinished, because a lot of the geometry just seems to be untextured, rather than them going the route of generating nice textures on everything. It's mostly just either flat colors or very simple plain textures, and it produces an effect that kind of looks unfinished, which I totally respect. I do kind of like the aesthetic of this game. It feels very kind of surreal and cartoony, which I think is appropriate for Bubsy.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. And yeah, so being able to get a lot of lives in the first level is kind of nice, because I'll be showing off some later levels, and they definitely get tricky later on. So yeah, and I guess also Bubsy's voice is... I think this does a good job of characterizing Bubsy.
So if I'm not mistaken, this was the first time that Bubsy was voiced by a woman. They had what was his name again? Why did it suddenly escape me? What was his name for the previous voice actor? Rob Paulson. Was the previous voice actor, and I can't remember her name. Who voice acted this one? I think people found it. I don't know. I guess the sort of higher pitched voice may have been contributed to the fact that, you know, Bubsy's pretty much always talking in this game, be it from little pickups or tutorial pieces or something like that. I think people found that tiring after a while, but I mean, I think Bubsy's voice is like a really iconic part of Bubsy as a character, and I think this game did a good job with that. I think that there's nothing wrong with it, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think it's appropriate for the characterization of Bubsy.
Yeah, Lanny Manella.
One thing I think I want to do after I complete this level is turn up the music a little bit. Turn up the sound effects, I mean, because I think you can switch those individually, and I think we should be able to hear Bubsy's voice a little better.
There's a lot of elements of this game that I think just I think the real criticism is they feel like they lack polish, not that they're necessarily bad, but that they just feel unpolished. So like even the music is just maybe not up to the standard most people would expect for the game.
Yeah. Yeah, turn up the game audio a little bit. It also seems like Bubsy's voice is a little bit low relative to the music. But yeah.
So things that this game did well. So I mean, if there are criticisms, why would anyone like this game? Well, I mean, first, it was one of the earliest not on rails 3D platformers. It came out after Super Mario 64, but that's only because Super Mario 64 got through with production faster. They actually had been working on the game prior to Super Mario 64, and no one had really ever done this before. There wasn't a lot of examples of games like this in existence, and so the sorts of things that we take for granted, the really fluid, full 3D motion that we're used to from a game like a Mario game, or really any 3D platformer at this point, just wasn't present to borrow from. And so this game used what was probably more conventional at the time for 3D games was tank controls. So the left and right buttons will turn you, and then forward and back let you walk forward and back once you've chosen the angle you want. Whereas you get much more dynamic motion in like a Mario game, where holding left on the analog stick will actually move you to the left. It doesn't just turn you left.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely agree, Meg. Like, it's hard when, like, you were working on 3D platformer, like, when that came out. Yeah.
So there's that aspect, and then I think that there's some things that this game does that get criticized that I actually think are strength of the game. So, for instance, this is one of the this is sort of similar to another PlayStation game called Jumping Flash, but a game that relies so much on 3D platforming and large distances that you're covering height-wise. This game does a good thing, which is where every time you jump, the camera points basically straight down. I wish more 3D games would do that, because I think that that's actually a smart choice to make. As you fall, it gives you a really good handle on exactly where you're going to land by turning the camera almost straight down. And I think that it looks weird with this game because it does that instantly every time you jump, but I think being able to see where you land is a real strength for this game.
Yeah, it definitely makes it easier to, like, get onto platforms when you can just see what's below you.
For a game that didn't have such dynamic controls for 3D platforming, being able to align yourself really consistently is pretty valuable. So,
yeah,
I can't even believe that the game gives you an option to turn the voice off. That is a sacrilege.
Yeah, no, why would they do that?
That is an affront to the Church of Bubsy.
Yeah. Hopefully now it's mixed a little better, so you'll get to hear Bubsy's voice now a little better. Because we've got to have that. Oh, it also made the sound effects a little higher. So, but
I think it's justifiable to find the tank controls for this game difficult to use for platforming. I mean, it's not intuitive considering sort of, again, this goes back to the discussion we had during Bubsy Claws Encounters. The sort of language of gaming that we have come to accept as being the default correct way to do things. I think one of the issues with this game is that it's not using that vocabulary that we're used to because it predates it. It's older than that vocabulary. The games that represent what we now know to be the objectively right way to design a 3D platformer, those games didn't exist, and so the language just wasn't there at the time.
yeah. Definitely. I'm like kind of like, I feel like this game, like, it did a lot. The designers had a lot to worry with, and I think they did a pretty good job considering everything. I'm trying to see if I can get that zip, but like there's like a thing you can do that you do along the run where you just climb to the top of the level, but.
Yeah, you can climb walls, but in order to do that, you need to do it pretty much sideways. So you have to jump sideways rather than forward.
Yeah, I think I don't know if it's possible on every wall. I don't know. I could be wrong on that.
It's possible on a lot of walls. I mean, some of them are going to be too steep to manage, but
yeah.
Yeah, the speedrun gets out of bounds on pretty much every level just by climbing up walls.
Yeah.
So that item that you just picked up is it's the shooter weapon. So now you don't have to like stand at an atom to attack. You can just attack anytime you want to. You've got your own ammunition to fire anytime you want to, which is really helpful because there's a few spots where you might want to kill some enemies that aren't near atoms of their own.
Oh yeah, definitely. I need to actually try taking more deaths just so I can show off some different animations. They're pretty cool.
Yeah, this game does the same thing Bubsy Claws Encounters did, which is sometimes you die in circumstances where you probably could have saved it, but they were so excited to show you a cool animation that you die anyway. So things like walking off of a ledge that might have water below it, you might have been able to land on something, but if you walk off the ledge, you're just dead, so.
Yeah. I think as a kid this was the level that I couldn't figure out like where to go, but yeah. There are definitely quite a few mazes to this, but yeah. It's still definitely enjoyable, I would say. Oh, I think this might be this. I think this is water. I want to say, yeah, it is. Let's. Yeah, this game predated like the analog controller, so that definitely made it easier to like do good analog, like the controls that we now typically use for 3D platformers.
Yeah, like I said, this wasn't the first 3D platformer technically. I mean, there were plenty of other 3D platformers out there. Most of them were either gave you a lot less flexibility than this game had, or it was like an on-rails platformer like Crash Bandicoot, where you know, you didn't have to really worry about issues of like a camera or anything like that to deal with. So it was pretty straightforward how to solve your problems.
Yeah. I think that's probably enough of that level, so I'll probably just be showing off like all the levels for a little bit.
Yeah, Meg, you're absolutely right. I think that is one of the things that makes the game so challenging is that because it's such Spartan design, everything's so sparsely designed that like even if you can tell what things are, it's going to be difficult to figure out, have I been here before? Because everything kind of looks the same, right? So it's not really easy to tell, does this look the same as the area I was just in because it's the same area and I'm walking in a circle, or is this a new area that just is also not very clearly designed?
Yeah. Okay, this level
This is
tricky.
yeah, this level in the speedrun is probably one of the hardest levels, and it's the third one. Just the amount of platforming that you have to do, especially over water, is pretty wild.
Yeah, I'll get to show off what Alf was talking about in a little bit, probably. I don't... Yeah, here, you see. It just wants to give you, like, that cartoonish, like, falling off thing, but...
Yeah, it's especially apparent in the later areas where you probably should be able to walk off of one platform and land on another, but if you ever walk off of a platform and for any time period you are ever over water, it just decides you're dead. And so it's kind of frustrating in that the game is so excited by its own clever animations that it doesn't let you survive.
Yeah...
So that thing that you just collected was a checkpoint. Those things are invaluable in this game, and they're pretty frequent actually. Despite, you know, the challenge of these levels, a lot of them are quite short, and the checkpoints can be very frequent. So I think that's to its credit that they, you know, they probably could have changed the way some things were designed so that it wasn't quite so hard, but in light of how difficult it is, I think it does a good job of like giving you ample checkpoints to survive things.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the checkpoint is pretty friendly in this game, thankfully. And here's like another one of these sections. So that noise you just heard, that signifies that the end level's on top of us. And yeah, that's another good example of what can happen.
Yep. You were jumping, you were perfectly fine, but you got hit by an enemy, and so for just a moment it said, no, I guess you're dead now.
Yeah, that's a little bit unfortunate. That's kind of how this can be.
Just fun to point out, one thing is pretty much every bit of geometry, every object you see on screen has geometry, even stuff that you think shouldn't. So like for instance, the plants that are in the water, those actually have geometry and you can land on them. The speedrun uses that pretty extensively in some spots to skip things. Those plants are meant to just be decorations, but they actually do have geometry, and so you can land on them and do things with them.
Yeah.
It's not exactly a delight trying to learn to land on them, but you can do it.
Yeah. So that's that down. So I forget if I think that a boss level is next. I want to say we'll be like fighting someone on like a calculator, and I feel like it's a reasonably well designed boss. Oh, whoops.
Yeah, this game has a lot fewer boss fights than the other games do. Every other game had a boss at the end of every world, but this game's not segmented into worlds, so it kind of just sprinkled bosses throughout the game. They do some really creative stuff. This is probably the least creative one in the game, but they do some pretty creative things. So the calculator boss is just figuring out a way to get high enough to be able to land on top of the boss, and you end up having to, you know, figure out how to use the boss's own attacks against him. The next one that we'll see in a little bit, the actually fighting the mammoth, is probably the most interesting one. I think they took a lot of chances with this one. I always love to see that with really early 3D games when there was really no precedent for anything. There was no one to just copy off of their test, and everyone just tried really weird stuff and wanted to see what sticks.
Yeah. Yeah, the boss in this game are definitely pretty creative. So yeah, just need to get there, then hit the boss a few times. And that actually turns into something you can use to float up, so that's pretty creative.
Yeah.
Admittedly, the tight controls do make this a little bit more tricky.
I was just about to say that. This is one of those spots where the tank controls are a real liability.
Yeah.
In fact, speedrunning this boss, you really have to figure out how to make the tank controls work for you, because just doing this fast is really challenging. But I mean, there's some things you can figure out that make it a little easier to pull off.
I want to say it's... Yeah. Alright.
Boss defeated.
Yeah, and so we'll now be heading on to the first water level in this game, and I honestly think the water levels, compared to some other games, they're a little more fun because there's actually a way that you can dash.
Yeah, I mean, from a speedrunning perspective, there's a lot of decisions you can make for how to go fast on these levels. There's actually a lot of variance in them.
Yeah. But unfortunately, like, going fast does cost, like, air, so if you do it, like, too much, like, that happens. So you have to be really careful with how you manage it. And there I get shot.
There's an interesting balance going on for sure.
Yeah,
you can find air tanks, which will give you an additional like 100 air, something like that. And that can help you go fast, but you have to know where those are. And if you're playing this casually, it's not obvious where you're even trying to go, let alone where the hidden air tanks are.
Yeah, like here's one. Yeah, so that those give you more air.
You can't just swim over everything because there's a certain cap of height where if you hit that height, it kind of pulls you back down. It does like a whole animation. It's kind of annoying, but I don't know, these levels, you know, for being just water levels, there's a lot of really interesting choices that they made. There's not just one linear path that you're going on. There's a lot of a variety of choices you can make. There's, you know, obviously we talked about the story of this game is that you're trying to find the parts to your rocket. In every single level, there's actually 2 rocket parts you can find. And so the water levels do a really good job of kind of hiding them off the beaten path and giving you sort of clever things that you can do to find them. So if you like exploration, these levels give you rewards for being pretty diligent about exploring and trying to find things.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of good exploration to this, so that's kind of a nice thing to have in this, I feel. So we're trying to find the exit, but there is like a lot of varying paths, so yeah. Luckily they're pretty generous with the air tanks, so that definitely helps this. Oh no! That wasn't gonna work.
Yeah, and the air dash is actually your only meaningful way of attacking in these stages, so it doubles its value there, but also you know, further compounds the challenge of dealing with some of these enemies. If you want to attack one to get it out of your way, you have to pay the cost of some of your air reserves.
Yeah. Wow. That dog is not. Okay, there we go. And there's also like animations for after you complete each level, so that's really nice.
Yeah, in case you want to just chill out on these screens. It also did the same thing that a lot of early PlayStation games did, a lot of early games of these eras, where obviously you can't just save games to the disc like you can save games to a cartridge. And so rather than expecting everyone to have a memory card, it also gives you a password. So you can save your progress a number of different ways.
Yeah, that's actually a really cool thing, since that I don't think they did in like a lot of other PlayStation games. So it's nice that they included that. I don't remember if this is another water level or if it's a platforming level.
I don't think that there's any back-to-back water levels.
Yeah.
There's one stage in between each one, so.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So the next 4 levels are dry water, dry water.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you wanted to think about the bosses as separating out worlds, you could do that. I guess there's sort of a notion of each boss ending its respective world. And this little stretch right here between the first and the second boss is mostly just water levels punctuated by dry levels in between them. So
Yeah, and later, from what I remember, you start getting city levels after you defeat the second boss.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it's not like conventionally broken down into worlds, but yeah, you could sort of see a theme running.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. It's cool that they like kind of subtly did it without explicitly pointing it out. Yeah, this is definitely where it starts. I'd say it starts getting a little more tricky around here. Like, the jumps they want you to do become kind of precise.
Really just makes me appreciate how much of the speedrun is just jumping out of bounds instantly.
Yeah.
I've definitely played through this game casually. I've seen the levels the way they're intended to be played.
Yeah. I beat this casually at one point, and I remember it has a pretty decent difficulty curve, I'd say. There isn't anything much harder than the things before it, I would say. Or much harder than the things after it, I'd say. And I think also those fans actually hurt you, so you do have to be careful about that. I'm gonna try to like do a trick here, just so I can. Oh no! And yeah, that's another like death animation that there is. Yeah, I think this is the introduction of, like, moving platforms. And that definitely nah, I think there may have been some in the first levels. I just want to see what happens if I can get up here. Oh, I think you can also, like, yeah, you can, like, sidestep by pressing L1 and R, or L and R, so that's a pretty cool feature. Oh wait, I'm already back to the beginning. This level, I don't really think this is the. I think I'll start trying to shop other levels. I think we may have lost like Alter Blues, but yeah, but hopefully we'll be back soon. But yeah, so I guess I don't feel like that level is really the most interesting. So we'll move on to like some other levels to kind of showcase some cool things that they have. But yeah, it's really cool that there's like a lot of different like things you can do for exploration and stuff. And so I'll be heading to the second like water level. So this is kind of just a little bit more maze-like. Oh yeah, that's right, that's my last hit. Unfortunately, you don't, like, regain health in between levels, but you do regain health if you collect a certain amount of these atoms, so they do give you good incentive to want to collect these. Also, as far as, like, the lives that continue are concerned, it's pretty generous. Like, if you game over, you can start back from the stage you died on, and there are unlimited continues, so that's at least at least more generous than the 2D Bubsy games. Oh no! Yeah, that's kind of not the thing you expect as like an enemy, but yeah. And yeah, if you get low, it has like a ticker. I will say that I appreciate it being like not as like obtrusive as it is in some other games, like how like say Zelda has like the beating hearts. It's kind of nice that it's a little less obtrusive, but you can still tell that it's there. Oh no! I realized I didn't have that now. Oh. There is like a life where it says 0, so that'd be good. At least there's like a checkpoint there. Ah. I think the music does a good job of fitting the tone of like the water levels. I want to see what happens if you just run into a Wooly. I'm gonna probably game over here, but that's how it can be. Oh, there's like invisibility. Can I get this? Okay. I really appreciate the animations in this game, honestly. Yeah, I can just continue from where I was, at least. I'm gonna go to a different level though. I'm gonna try to show off the second boss that Off mentioned earlier. Wait, does this... Don't tell me that this, like... It's not working. Okay, I think I should just fire this out at this point. Yeah, unfortunately, like there, it just, like, did that, So yeah. Oh, what? Okay, there we go. I wasn't sure what buttons were doing what, even though it does say it right there. And of course I didn't, like, save the original, like, options I had. I always was, like, a way to, like, switch, like, have voices, like, a separate voice slider, but it's still cool that they let you switch that individually. I don't believe that was in a lot of other games before this. Yeah, I think that was just probably an issue with my disc. It crashing. Yeah, this boss. This boss is definitely a pretty unique boss. So, what I'll be wanting to do is I'll be wanting to hit the elephant into the sides of the arena that are there. So this is definitely a bit too out first. Oh nah, that's actually not right. You need to like let it fall at first. I've not played this, so I don't need all the time perfectly, but you need to let it fall and then hit it when it does that. Like if you hit it... Okay, there it just deals damage. Oh wait, no, I think I asked what's into the arena actually. Yeah, I'm pretty sure, like, when I played this, I thought I needed to do it. Oh no, I think you might need to, like, have these on the banana peels, actually. Like, this doesn't really... I'm trying to, like, relearn how this boss works. You get to see one of the other unique, like, animations there. I think there I could have actually probably caused some damage by hitting the arena. Ah. I guess you can keep hitting him after you do that.
Houston, we have a problem.
Oh yeah, I think the reason that you want to hit them is so that their more banana peels will spawn. And then you can use those to hit him more easily. I don't know if I actually did like damage. I don't think I'm on base actually did. You can like just like do like this so that and so that to slide the banana peel. I forget if there's like a certain section you need to hit or maybe you can like I was thinking maybe you could like do something there, like cause him to fall down. Hoping I'll have time to show off like some of the final levels. The game definitely picks up in difficulty toward the end. Yeah, that's right. The game doesn't want to continue for some reason, so I need to reset every time I do that. I turn down the volume. I'm turning back on the game. It's definitely cool how they made this boss like a pretty strategic boss. Yeah, I feel like this also does a good job in kind of teaching you what you need to do. I want to say that what I was doing there was correct, honestly. Like even like just the title card like gives you a hint as to how to defeat the boss, which I feel is pretty creative. Oh, maybe it's specifically when he hits the wall you can attack. So depending on boss like in iframes, how does that happen?
Hey, I'm back.
Oh, hey.
Sorry if I...
So you arrived at a fun time off. I'm actually a little confused at what to do.
Okay. Yeah, so this is, I think, one of the more creative bosses in this game. The idea behind it is that you need to get the elephant out of the ring, and in order to get the elephant out of the ring, it has to break down the laser barrier, so you have to get it to hit the same segment of laser barrier 3 times in a row.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
So you have to keep track of where you've been hitting, and you have to angle it to hit at that spot. Is basically the idea.
Yeah, I was hitting it, but I guess I was always hitting a different one, so it didn't end up working out. But yeah, that's definitely a creative idea.
Yeah, it's pretty challenging from a speedrun perspective because depending on where the bananas land in the arena can determine where you really have a chance to hit. And so sometimes you have to do some creative things, like if a banana lands in a bad spot, you might need to like kite the elephant around in the right spots to get it to line up with the wall that you want it to hit.
Oh, this is that actually nah, it's going to hit it again. Okay, so I think this wall should only need like 1 more hit. Yeah, there is a little bit
right there. Yeah, right there you got a banana in an awkward spot, so it's kind of hard to get to line up with where you want it to go. There's some things you can do to make it, to sort of get it to line up properly, but it's very challenging.
Yeah. But yeah, that boss is definitely an interesting boss. There is at least a visual indicator with how, as you deal more damage to the wall, it flashes, I think. So, I guess we'll be... Yeah, I guess I can show off some of the vehicle levels now. This is definitely where the game starts to pick up even more in difficulty, because it kind of at least does give you like an introduction to how they work with this. Just kind of gives you a chance to just play around with them and get some atoms and get a general idea as to how they work.
Yeah, this level is all about these car paths and figuring out how to get to where you're wanting to go, because it's really easy to like get on the ground and just find where the end of the level is, but you need to find which sequence of cars takes you where you're trying to get to.
Yeah, so there you saw I got a checkpoint that I don't know if that was the path I actually wanted to take. I think that's just like back to the beginning, so... Or no, this is a period, I think. Oh, is this... Yeah, this can definitely... Yeah, we're definitely going for kind of a cartoony feel with this music.
Keep your arms and legs inside until this ride comes to a full and complete stop.
I love like Bubsy's voices, I've gotta say. Oh! You see, the game, it can be a bit rude at times, but...
Yep, and when that happens, you're going back.
Yeah.
It turns out that the specific car you got in is actually the only way to get on the path you need to get to the end. There's really no other options available to you.
Yeah. I don't know, but I guess in the speedrun, these levels are a little harder to skip through. I can probably skip through some of them, but I don't remember speedrun that well, so I don't know.
Yeah, the speedrun for this level just really has to play it more or less the way it's intended. There's very few parts that are skipped.
Yeah. I guess there's kind of nothing for... I'm kind of a little confused by hate with hippos. Okay. Unfortunately, how many lives died? Okay, yes, I'll do. Unfortunately, the disc I'm playing this on has like an issue where I can't really continue without it locking. So, I want to be careful with my game over. But yeah, I guess I think I kind of got the general gist of how that level goes. I know there's some other levels that are really, really tricky. I know one level toward the end, you need to hit like 4 different things when you're, at least if you're playing like as intended. And
do you want a password for more lives so you don't have to worry about game overing?
Sure, that would be appreciated, I think. Or
if you go into load save, the password is X mucho life.
Oh, okay.
And it'll give you 99 lives.
Yeah, X mucho life. That's good. Thanks. X. It's really cool that there's like a lot of different passwords you can do for things.
Yeah, so if we're talking about things that we like about this game, one more thing I want to point out since we're nearing the end. I don't imagine there's really going to be a way for you to show it off, but we can talk about it a little bit. And that's this game actually has a 2-player mode that's really kind of clever. It's a 2-player competitive mode where one player plays as Bubsy, platforming in the level, and the other player is basically a crosshair. Basically just an aiming reticule that you can shoot at Bubsy, and if you hit Bubsy, you trade places, and each of you has sort of like a chess countdown timer, and the goal is to be the person who stays in Bubsy the longest.
I actually have 2 controllers, so I can't have someone else to compete with, but I can show it off with like
Sure.
2 controllers. Real quick.
I think it's a really clever game mode. It's an interesting idea for a game mode where you're just trying to like evade the other person's attack and show off some of those. I don't know, evade the other person's attack and keep control of Bubsy for as long as possible. I don't know that I've ever seen another game try a 2-player mode like that, because, you know, for 2 players in a platformer, you would think both of you are playing as the character, or as, you know, a platforming character, but this has you like trading places back and forth over and over, which I think is a really creative idea.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's cool what they like tried with this game. I'll probably show this level off a little bit, then go to the final level, then show off the 2-player for a little bit. The final level is definitely pretty tricky in this game. But yeah, the jumps definitely do get way more tricky, and you have like way more moving platforms to do that.
Yep, and most of your platform it's going to end up being over water, which means even the slightest slip up is going to punish.
Oh. We're 51 minutes in, so I think I'm gonna move on and see if I can actually make it pretty far in the final level. I don't know if you happen to remember, like, the combination by any chance.
For what?
For the final level, I have game packs open, so I can get it probably. Or you're gonna show.
Yeah, I'm not sure that I remember. I'm not sure I remember the combination explicitly.
Apparently there aren't any guys for this game on game packs. Unfortunately.
I can find it for you really quickly. It's in my notes.
Oh, thank you. Hopefully I can get there. There is a little bit you need to do before that. You see, it definitely gets like a lot harder around here. And yeah, you need to like hit these things. Question, right? What?
I think it's blue, green, red, yellow. I'm trying to find it.
Okay.
No, it's green. Green, blue, red, yellow. Green, blue, red, yellow, it looks like.
Green, blue, red, yellow. Okay. I'm just okay. Yeah. Thanks. Drop that. Oh no! I would guess it would be 3 hits. Oh, I just barely missed that. I regret that I didn't get to show off like the thing. I'm hoping that I can make it to the boss pretty soon. Okay, hold on. I think the platform, the places it shoots at, change after hits. So.
I can't tell you the last time I actually fought this boss since you skip him in the speedrun.
Oh, yeah.
Because killing him only makes that wall disappear, but you can just climb over it.
Yeah. I've kind of wanted to learn the speedrun, but it definitely does seem pretty tricky.
Yeah, I mean, there's some tough parts to it, but I think that once you understand the basics of the speedrun, it's pretty easy to do.
Oh, yeah. Please tell me there's like a chance. Yeah, okay. One might spawn right there. Or no, this is the area I need to go to. And like those walls, it's nice that they don't just instantly kill you, they just teleport you back to where you were. So I don't know if I'll end up being this boss, but I'll at least kind of show them off a bit. I think you have to face the... I forget their names. Green, blue... And...
Polly and Esther are their names.
Yeah, okay. I don't remember, is there any indication as to, like, the where you can find, like, where the order is?
Nope, it's a guess and check mechanism. You try it, and if you get part of the sequence wrong, it'll stop you. You'll get stunned, and it'll reset, so you have to keep doing it until you get it right.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think that the game ever, like, teaches you the input in advance.
Okay, yeah.
I believe the teleporter should stay active since you made it appear.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, they're still spinning, so yeah. So the way this works is that I kind of forget this boss. Oh yeah, I want to say that yeah, you need to hit the thing so that you can use the atoms to hit Polly and Esther.
Yeah, the atoms in the corners are your ways of attacking, and the switch in the middle makes the things protecting them disappear. Because of the fact that the atom will blow up in your hand if you hold onto it for too long, and that turning is so slow, it's actually advantageous to kind of like jump backwards into the atom, like jump back behind it, so that you're already facing the right direction and you don't have to turn.
Oh yeah, that definitely seems like it would make it a lot. I don't know why that happened. I think I was accidentally holding back or something.
Yeah, you might have been holding a direction or something.
Yeah, well, or I think I was just holding forward. Like, the momentum in this game kinda... It's really easy to maintain momentum. So that may have been why I just fell in the water there.
Yeah, there's some tricks you can do to combat the fact that the tank controls are a little bit unusual, but it does become a problem typically when you have to do combat. All of the boss fights are sort of plagued by tank controls issues.
Yeah,
but I would say that it is definitely manageable. You can learn to be better at the fights. It just takes a lot of practice. I would say in particular the Polly and Esther fights are very challenging. For just a tip for you is if you try to focus on just one of them, they're differently colored, so you can keep track of them separately. If you try to just focus on one of them, if you kill one of them and then you die, that one stays dead. It won't preserve like the amount of damage you've done, so it'll reset. But if you kill one, it'll stay dead. So if you just focus on one at a time, if possible.
yeah. That definitely helps, like, with making it easier.
Yeah, and you've already figured out that always jumping is the key.
Yeah. I want to say they have 3 hits of these. Just
they do, yeah.
Oh, that was...
You got this?
Okay, cool. So that definitely makes it easier for the future.
Yeah, so if you don't survive this attempt, which I'm sure you certainly could, if you don't survive this attempt, Polly will stay dead. Or whichever one that was will stay dead.
Yeah, I think it was Polly. Oh, that has like a shield, I think.
Yeah, if you're too close to them, then they'll have a shield up, so.
Oh, yeah. It's also cool that you stay invincible when you have an atom.
Yep, while you're holding the atom, you're invulnerable to damage.
Yeah. It kind of has a cool layer of strategy. Do you want to hold the atom or do you want to turn around a bit, since there is like a time limit?
Right. You can also use it, in the case where you're not being just sort of inundated by shots. They can't shoot until their previous shot disappears. So sometimes there's more time between their shots than other times. But if there is spacing, you can kind of like hold onto the shot, wait for it to run into you or run past you, and then fire so that you're not vulnerable.
Okay, that might be.
Yep, the game ends as soon as you collect
Oh,
the rocket
flashing
piece.
warning. Or does it not flash here?
I don't think it'll flash on this one. Just collect the rocket piece, and then you should be good.
Okay, cool. I want to show.
And that's it. That's the end of the game.
I'm glad that I learned like those tricks for the end of the game. But yeah, I think now real quick I'm just gonna show off like the 2 players since it's been about a couple of hours. So you can like just do like a few different levels. I haven't really done this any, so I'm a little unsure what to say. But I'm glad I'm glad that they included like something unique for 2-player.
Yeah, it's really kind of clever. The idea is that one player is controlling Bubsy and the other one has the ability to like fire on Bubsy, and if Bubsy gets shot, then you'll switch places. So now player 2 is controlling Bubsy, for instance.
Oh, I need to actually move around. Oh yeah. I'm doing it like 2P1C, so that kind of makes it hard to like keep track of what's going on.
I actually played this with Nick's Report, who's the guy who found a lot of the strategies for the speedrun. I played this with him at a GDQ, and he was way better at it than I was.
Yeah, this definitely seems like a pretty cool thing. So
that's Bubsy 3D.
Yeah. So I don't know what's that thing on the top, like top left. That's the 0.
That's the number of shots that player 2 has, or the opposing player. So the opposing player can't collect any, or can't attack again until another one is loaded.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So now player 2 can hit, and then player 2 can control Bubsy is essentially how this is. Oh, so it like loads over time then?
I don't remember if it loads over time or if as the player controlling Bubsy gets more points. Because the goal is to have the most points, I think, at the end of this. I'm not 100% certain, but like as you collect points, the other player gets more shots loaded.
Yeah, I want to say it's dependent on the amount of points, since just because now, like there was another shot right after 800 points. So I want to say that that's how it works.
Yeah, I'm not going to argue that this is like the most balanced gameplay. This is a real sort of novelty act going on here. But I think it's cool that they like tried to come up with a 2-player game, especially considering that there really weren't a lot of 3D platformers to base this on. So it's not even like they were trying to differentiate themselves from other 3D platformers. They just had the idea to make a cool 2-player game in it as well.
Yeah. Okay, so I guess it's just like the who wins just determined on the amount of points that the players had.
Yeah, probably something like that.
Yeah. So I think that generally shows like how it works. So I believe with that we'll be concluding this episode. That was a lot of fun. Thank you so much all for being on commentary.
Hey, thanks for having me. Sorry for the little internet break, but I think this was a lot of fun, and I'm glad that we got to talk about Bubsy.
Yeah, that's just what we all want to be able to do. Yeah. So I believe with that we'll be finished, and so I think we'll go ahead and raid someone. I need to get get it out. So I believe we'll be rating Rose and Flagon. She's like playing Celeste, so that should be fine. And she gets like. So be sure to pick that out. She's also a member of the Edge Case Collective. So yeah.